Hello, lovely wild hearts. It's Lisa here. I want to talk to you today about the hidden healing powers of storytelling. We all have a story inside of us, and we must tell our stories, because if what's in you doesn't come out of you, then what's in you will destroy you. That is a really butchered quote from the Bible. Not that I read the Bible, but it is a quote that I believe to be true. So here are some lovely pictures of me at the Friends studios, not the real ones in America, but the mock-up ones that they did in London when Friends came to an end. And I don't know how many of you watch Friends as your comfort TV programme, but if you do, then you're going to like this post a lot and you'll be able to relate to what I'm saying. But it doesn't need to be Friends. Whatever is your go-to. I quite like Miranda Hart. If you're in the UK, she is one of our fabulous comedians and actresses or actors. And she's also a writer. What else do I like to watch? I used to like watching Sex and the City back in the day. I don't really like the revisited version of that. Tell me what your comfort TV programmes are. Drop me a note in the comments below. And let's get on with today's story. It's like story time with Lisa. Takes me back to the old days when I used to work with the kids. Actually, at the weekend, I was recording the energy reading for the month, and I was diving in boxes trying to get cards and things out, and I found a load of tools that I used to use with the children, and basically it's a box of hearts, like fluffy hearts with Velcro that you can stick around your wrist. I found a squishy brain and a pair of glasses, and I used to use those to teach children about the power of their thoughts. Anyhow, I digress. Just one more chapter. As a kid, I would stay up late engrossed in my books, even though my eyes were stinging and I was falling asleep. Now at 48, well, I'm 50 now, so I wrote this blog 2 years ago. It's one more episode of Friends where I'm heavily invested in Ross and Rachel's on-off romance and desperate to find out if Rachel will get off the plane. The thing is, I'm no virgin to this comedy classic. I've watched it a gazillion times before. We repeatedly escape to new worlds to relax our nervous systems. So those of you who, like me, who've got complex post-traumatic stress disorder, childhood trauma, high levels of anxiety, whatever you're struggling with, the ultimate goal is to be able to work with your nervous system, because that's what's going to help you heal. But we repeatedly escape to new worlds to relax our nervous system, so it helps. So watching repeats means I know what happens next, and I can delight in the laughter, the positive emotion, and spoiler alert, happy endings. The relationship between the characters who share their lives as well as tell us their stories unfolds with each episode, and it gives meaning to my life as a messy human and my place in this world as a sensitive and intuitive wild heart. That's what I call highly sensitive wild heart. If you've read my book, you'll understand what that means. Some might say I'm spending far too much time hanging out in Central Perk with imaginary people that feel like my besties. Who wouldn't want to go there, though? I absolutely love New York. It has such fabulous energy, and that keeps me going back time and time again. Let me know in the comments if you've been to New York. Oh, I've been there, I think 4 times. I must go back again soon, now that we are able to fly again after COVID. Haven't really been on a plane so further afield than Europe since COVID days. Yeah, that's the thing about Miranda. If you watch Miranda Hart, she's got fruit friends. So she's got Gordon the grapefruit. She's got Mr. Butternut. She paints faces on them all and hangs out with them in her flat. She's a total introvert. We'll find out more about those in a minute. So, although whilst I'm imagining what it would be like to exist in their world, my brain is releasing feel-good chemicals into my system like oxytocin, the hormone that controls empathy and social interaction, which calms my nervous system and helps me feel relaxed while I snuggle on the sofa. As a survivor of childhood trauma, feeling relaxed and safe is everything to me. That is my priority over everything. I want to believe in happy endings, and it took me a really long time to believe that this was even a possibility for somebody like me. Introvert heaven equals indulging in social snacking without having to leave the house. My friends also serve as excellent company without the threat of rejection or the hassle of organising diary dates. If you're a sensitive and introverted wild heart like me, you'll know what I mean when I say that as lovely as people are, the overwhelm of socialising is exhausting and often requires a lot of quiet time afterwards to recover and recharge your batteries. So this is a quote from Raymond A. Marr, psychology professor at York University. When it comes to fictional characters, they are our bidding. They are there whenever we need them, whenever we ask. We invest in the characters to get a sense of belonging. As the odd one out and a strange member of my family, I don't know if you know that about me, there is a reading on here for people that are estranged from their families that you might find useful. Google it. It feels safe to watch Friends without the usual underlying tensions. I don't have to mind read anyone, feel responsible for anyone's feelings, worry about where the next snarky comment is coming from, fear being frozen out because I've supposedly done something wrong. Oh, and I've got to guess what that is because nobody will tell me. Do you remember the episode when Ross says he's fine? Yes, that's the passive-aggressive calling card. I love the one where Ross says he's fine. That's the fajitas episode when Rachel is dating Joey. Tell me your favourite episode of Friends. What is your favourite episode of Friends? What one sticks in your mind? Stories mean that we feel less alone. It's common when you're healing from trauma to self-isolate. So I feel less alone when I identify with and see parts of myself in the three female friends. Rachel gives me permission to be more demanding and have needs, wants and desires. Phoebe inspires me to let my crazy hippie woo-woo self out of the closet. And Monica normalises my OCD cleaning tendencies and desire to excessively control every single detail of my life. Her narcissistic parents favour her brother Ross over her, which drives her competitive edge and need to be right. I can also relate to Chandler's shut down emotions because of his parents' dysfunctional relationship. Did you see the one where Monica tries to get him to cry and he can't? After watching the film E.T. and talking about what would happen if she dies, he still can't shed a tear. So she yells at him, "What's wrong with you?" Childhood trauma, Monica. That's what. Stories break down barriers and dissolve shame. What would you say if somebody asked you, do you want to watch Netflix or go to therapy to talk about your childhood trauma? I know which one I'd rather do. Give me Johnny Depp or George Clooney any day over feeling the pain and rehashing the past, except it's not really rehashing the past. The pain already lives inside of me, and if I don't heal my wounds, they leak into the present and bleed over others and take control of my life. Oprah said that when you're trying to wake people up or encourage them on a healing path, hello, that's my job and it's really hard. So if you're watching this video and you like it, can you give it a like or can you drop me an emoji in the comments below? Because that helps more people see it. And you might be the reason that somebody goes to therapy or starts thinking about healing, and that will change the world. But Oprah said, when you're trying to get people to wake up or encourage them on a healing path, you have to get creative, because who wants to talk about their trauma and do the work? This is how the Oprah show was born, and while some may have seen it as trash TV because it focused on sex, relationships and weight loss, it was actually very clever. It was groundbreaking. It gave people the chance to share their story, which was a ratings winner, and people loved it. The child inside us carries so much shame that prevents us from telling our story. Our inner child believes there must be something wrong with me if X, Y and Z happened and we couldn't make it right. It has to be our fault, because to put the responsibility with our parents and acknowledge what was really going on would have been far too scary. And this is why we develop so many maladaptive coping strategies and often don't start to heal until life circumstances force our hand by breaking us wide open. I was terrified the pain would be unbearable. We run away from and avoid our pain because we fear it will destroy us. The people who raised us couldn't be with our pain because they couldn't be with theirs. We think if we go there, we'll disappear into a big black void, never to return again. It's not true though, because any skilled therapist or coach who understands trauma will know that you can't talk or positively think your way out of it. You've got to feel. The only way out is through. You've got to feel it to heal it. We are hardwired for stories. It's how we learn best. It's how we relate to one another. It's just as important to share your own story as it is to hear the stories of others. When I work with trauma, I don't press on the wound. when I'm sitting with the client. I talk around the wound and focus on building safety until my client is ready to face their pain. And then we go slow and we go into the hurty bit, and then we come out for a rest. And our bodies are really good at processing what they need to in the moment when we listen to them. And I'm a huge fan of creativity as a channel for self-expression, for releasing those trapped, stuck, hurty bits. In particular, journaling to help my clients express their pain. Stories are the healing balm that brings us together and lead us home. In stories where there is struggle that we relate to, we feel connected with one another. MRI scans show that we actually experience the protagonist's emotions, which is validating, meaning-making and healing. My story, written in the book Stuck Between Two Worlds, which you'll find reviews and snippets and parts read on this channel. I'll also put a link in the description box below. My story, written in the book Stuck Between Two Worlds, tells the story of growing up in generational trauma through the eyes of my inner child and how she ventured to the wilderness to find her true self. When I worked with Wildheart kids, I recorded 100 stories to help make growing up easier for these sensitive souls. So before I started working with adults, I did a decade of working with children and their families, and that was really how I met my inner child and how that book was born. That story was waiting to come out of me. Stories of struggle can bring hope to others who feel lost. I hope that's what my book does, really. What people find comforting when they read my book is they feel seen, heard and validated. Often as children we have felt unloved, wrong and broken, but we are not. We are raised by people who could not see themselves, so they definitely cannot see us. Many of us were shamed for being human, and Ruby's story in Stuck Between Two Worlds dissolves that. She makes it safe to talk about what happened to us, breaking the dysfunctional family rule. Don't talk about it or tell anybody. It's always loads of dirty secrets, isn't there? We're only as sick as our secrets. That was what Oprah said as well. She's a smart lady, that Oprah, wasn't she? Or isn't she? Your childhood trauma does not have to define you. It's healing to learn that you're not broken, but in fact the environment you grew up in hurt you, and you want to protect yourself by making sure you don't get hurt again. Makes sense, doesn't it? Reading it through the eyes of a child who survived reinforces how truly courageous and resilient you are. It gives you hope that you can overcome it too. This is my story. Is it yours too? So this is Stuck Between Two Worlds. Meet Ruby, a fiery 10-year-old redhead who can't sleep. She's restless, hypervigilant, and her curious detective brain won't stop. She's crippled by perfectionism and terrified of making mistakes. She works harder and harder to make her family proud, but she's exhausted. There was no way out. Ruby's family are obsessed with how things look, but nobody talks about feelings. There's always drama. Ruby tries to hide her anger, but it keeps exploding without warning. Ruby is a big bookworm as she loves cheese and the rain. Books are how she escapes from the chaos around her. Ruby felt trapped in an impossible double bind. Yeah, a double bind is like damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like a mental assault course with no training. Some days she did it blindfolded or with her fingers crossed behind her back, hoping somehow she would make it through the day without getting into trouble. It was a crazy topsy-turvy whirlwind that swept you up and spat you out. Even mega observant Ruby, with her super detective skills, couldn't predict or stop the monumental levels of emotional chaos. She tried to make her parents happy, but it was impossible. Too often they would say she was mad or bad, to deflect from the truth. She was sent to her room for hours and hours to calm down, but she didn't know how to. What she did know was that the Emperor wasn't wearing any clothes. Whenever she spoke up, she was shamed, blamed or punished. It was about her attitude. If only she wasn't so rude and angry. Turns out Ruby wasn't a bad kid. She was a Wildheart, a highly sensitive soul who absorbed all the unspoken words, the unacknowledged feelings, the blame and shame in her family system. Her nervous system was often dysregulated because she lived in survival mode. She had no idea how much pain she was carrying, until one day a magical stranger appears and leads Ruby to the wilderness, where she learns another life does await her. As Ruby discovers her true power, one question remains. Will she stay in the wilderness with her Wildheart friends, or will she return to her family and their secrets? Join Ruby as she learns to use her Wildheart superpowers for good. As she navigates the challenges of the wilderness, she learns valuable life lessons, including how to manage her worries, overcome her fears, and deal with explosive anger. And then it just says Stuck Between Two Worlds by Lisa Parks is available to buy on Amazon now, or you can work with me to unearth your story with my coaching program, Right to Heal. So that's a new coaching program I've got out. It's a one-to-one coaching program where I will give you prompts and we will work together to unearth your story. I mean, maybe you're writing a book or a memoir, or maybe you're just curious and you want to get stuff out of you. You know there's stuff in there that hurts and it needs to come out. I actually do believe that even if you don't have any cognitive memories of your childhood, that you can heal in this way. I don't think you have to remember it in your mind, because trauma is stored in the fascia muscle in our bodies. And so it's actually getting into the body and feeling it that will heal it. So I hope you enjoyed that today. And I'd love to work with you if you would like to tell me your story, if you'd like a compassionate witness, if you would like to have a look at my online courses. There's lots of journaling courses there. There's one for self-love, there's one for manifesting your dreams, and there's also a starter kit, so you can start to write what needs to come out, whatever's inside of you that needs to come out. So yes, storytelling is incredibly powerful, lovely wild hearts. And I think we should teach journaling in schools. I don't fancy changing the school system, not in this country anyway. This whole country's bonkers. Beam me up, Scotty. Anyone else feel like that? But if you liked today's video, could you give it a like? Could you share it with a friend that might need to see this? Could you leave me a comment and let me know if you enjoyed the video and what really resonated with you? Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.